Hello and welcome to Miss Charlotte Astrology. My name is Charlotte. I'm a full-time working astrologer, and on this channel I analyze the astrological charts of public figures. Very often they're celebrities or they're royalty, but in today's case it's a bit of both. I will be analyzing the Synastry chart of a chart of an iconic couple made up of JFK Jr. and his wife Carolyn Bessette. So just in case you're a little bit younger, these two people were an iconic it couple of the 1990s. JFK Jr. was, of course, the son of President John F. Kennedy. And Carolyn Bessette was, well, at the time when she met him, before she became a celebrity, much to her dismay, she was a public relations do you call it public relations officer? Public relations person for the brand Ralph Lauren. So he met her through, I guess, Ralph Lauren. I guess they must have been dressing him, or there was some kind of event. And they promptly fell in love. They eventually got married in a secret wedding. Go check out the documentary of the secret wedding tapes. Truly like a fairy tale. So they got together. They were very much in love, and it's very well documented that their relationship was volatile. There were rumors that they were going to break up just before they suddenly and tragically passed away in a horrific airplane accident, in an airplane crash. He was piloting the plane, and there was bad weather, and I think he made some errors, and he crashed the plane, and Carolyn, and I think her sister was on board, and himself, and they all died. And I distinctly remember this. It was 1999. I would have been like 11 years old, and I remember that being all over the news. And, you know, this is one of the incidents that perpetuates that myth of the legend and the myth of the Kennedy curse, you know, and you could even argue it's a bit of a Bouvier curse, because the Bouviers also are a little bit of a tragic family. So there's a lot here. There's a lot of layers to get through. It's layers of psychology, mythology, history. There's so much there. So if you're interested in this chart today, go deeper. Go deeper. It's a wild tale, like I'll tell you. So before I dive in, I want you guys to know that I do offer readings. They are 15-minute MP3 readings. They are emailed to you. And I also do DM readings on Instagram. So if you want something a little bit cheaper, you don't want to commit to an MP3, you want to just see if I'm all right, you can go on my Instagram, follow me, and you can purchase a DM reading, take a screenshot of your receipt, take a screenshot of your chart, send it to me, and then we can chat in the DMs about your chart. Okay? And I also have YouTube members, so if you'd like to support me, you want to chat to me on there, you want to see my travel adventures, we can talk astrocartography, transits. I can give hot takes on celebrities that I don't do on my main channel. Please follow me on my members. So thank you so much for your support. All right, so let's dive in and have a look at their placements. I know quite a bit about this couple. I've done a bit of research in the lead up to this. So this is not a blind reading. I will eventually be doing blind readings. There's a few Gen Z celebrities I'm going to cover, but very often I like to do research because it helps me learn astrology more. When you study the history of a person and the life of a person and then look at their chart, it allows you to match those things up. Like when you study history, if you're going to be good at astrology, study history. Just do that. That's what we're doing here. It's a bit of a history lesson because I'm going to give you some tidbits today. All right, so this is their chart. So the inner circle, the blue planets, that is John. So he was a Sag sun. You can see at the bottom here. He's a Sagittarius sun. His rising was in Virgo, and his moon was in Aquarius. And Carolyn, she was a Capricorn sun with a moon in Cancer up here, and her rising was in Aquarius, along with a bunch of Aquarius placements. Mars, Venus, Lilith. The girl had a temper. So yeah, let's go deeper. It's very clear that they were in love. Like, every time I look at this synastry, I'm like, oh, so passionate, so volatile, but still very loving. All right. Unregulated routines. John's public 11th house, Cancer, Mars, and Lilith lie in a conjunction with Caroline's 6th house, Cancer, Moon. So I often talk about the Moon-Mars conjunction. It can go either way. It can go left or it can go right. So when it goes right, there is a sexual and emotional connection, right? The Mars person, and remember, Mars is the masculine planet, and in this case it belongs to John. That is in a conjunction with her moon, which is emotions. When you have these two meeting up in a sexual relationship, in a romantic relationship, the moon person is going to catch feelings for the Mars person. The Mars person feels dominant, abundant, and happy with this. Like, this is a masculine and a feminine planet meeting up, and one person is being sexually satisfied, and the other person is getting digmatized, is getting as having an emotional experience. So it's a really good synastry in that way, but where it can go left is that there can be disruption here. It's like Mars is a sword, and the moon is the belly. There's a knife to the belly. She's left very vulnerable here. Lilith is also here. I feel like he also had a pretty nasty temper. His Mars is also retrograde, which indicates there was inappropriate expressions of anger. I think he could be quite they're both volatile people, but he's got it. He's got a Mars retrograde. I think he keeps things in. He's a Mars in Cancer too. Mars in Cancer, they take a lot of bullshit. They take a lot. They know how to do that. But when they get angry, they pop off. They'll cry in the office. They'll get unprofessional. They'll get mean, and it's not the best Mars placement. You know, if you think of Mars as the best placement for Mars is in Capricorn, right? So if it's in the opposite sign of Cancer, that person is going to be highly emotional. I do think he was, it's one of the gentler Marses. It's a very compassionate Mars sign. I think he's very emotionally motivated. Mars and Capricorns, like myself, we're money motivated. We're like, money power. But Mars in Cancer, it's not the most practical Mars sign. And it could also be someone that is, they could be impulsivity issues. Now, he has his Mars and Lilith in the 11th house. So he was very comfortable, even though he was in a lot of ways an introvert, he was very comfortable early on dealing with the public and the media, because since he was literally in the uterus, he has had a camera on him, his mum, like his whole family. Like, he's dealt with the media his whole life, so it's something that he's very comfortable with. And having his Mars in the 11th house, he is a natural leader. Even if he's got a little bit of a bad temper, he is a natural leader. He is someone that wants to have some level of acclaim for himself. I know that he was living in the shadow of his deceased father, which was very painful for him, but he's someone that really wanted to make something of himself. Like, when you have Mars in a public house, you want respect, right? So great placement for him. I do also feel like he made a few enemies, like he pissed a few people off because Mars is a malefic, and Lilith is here as well. I could argue that he pissed off a few women. I think he's a little bit of a playboy, like father, like son. So yeah, this public Mars, this public placement, this malefic energy here is in her 6th house. The 6th house is a bit more of a private house. The 6th house is paying your bills, exercise, everyday routines, walking your dog. And her moon is here. So people with moon in the 6th house, especially in Cancer, they have to love what they do. They have to love their work. I think she was someone that really enjoyed her role at Ralph Lauren. She likely made a lot of friends. She was very respected. She was very kind and very sweet. If you watch the documentaries where people talk about her in the context of her profession, a lovely person. Now, this is a private moon. It's a busy moon. It's a little bit of a workaholic moon, but it's private. And a lot of her emotional needs are met through things like exercise and routine. Like, she's someone that really needed to have a stable routine, because if she doesn't have a stable routine, she's emotionally messed up. Now, having John's 11th house malefic, like all of that, his public placement on her private placement, it's going to disrupt her routine, which is going to put her in a very awkward, painful position of being photographed while walking their dog in a park, being photographed in her apartment. These are things that happened to her. Before she met him, she lived a very peaceful, productive life, and all of a sudden, bam, Mars in the 6th house on her moon. Like, yes, the sex was great, the emotional connection was fantastic, there was genuine love there, but with love came all of this pressure. Light bulbs bursting in her face, blinding her. Like, this was devastating for her. To be with him was exhausting, emotionally exhausting. This is what happens when in a Synastry chart, if someone's, let's just say you date a famous person, right? If their public house is lying in a conjunction with some private house or private placements, it's going to hurt. That's why, Kim and Kourtney Kardashian, they're all fighting here. Like, that's why, because it's deeply unpleasant. The private person is not going to, they're not going to enjoy having their space invaded. And that's what happened in this situation. And she's a Cancer moon, just a very sensitive, empathic person who just wanted to sit at home and drink wine and smoke a J. Like, that's what she wanted. I also felt like she enjoyed doing a few bumps of you-know-what. But anyway, go watch some documentaries. She's a fascinating person, a real sweetheart girl, but she had some chaos. But generally, she just wanted her private life to stay private, So this is a bit of an awkward placement. A public-private life. So this theme is continuing. John's Gemini midheaven. Remember, the midheaven is the highest point in the sky. It is your work. It is your profession. It is public's perception of you, right? He's got that in Gemini, which explains why he had so many different little businesses and tried many different things. And that is in a conjunction he's got part of fortune, so his midheaven and part of fortune, so success in career, fortune, he's got part of fortune in the 10th house, so he's gonna get lucky with his businesses and lucky professionally. That is conjunct Carolyn's IC, North Node, and Jupiter. So this is awkward. So we have another example of a public house, John's public house, the midheaven, career, in her 4th house of private life, right? Now, her North Node of destiny is here. So with her North Node on the IC, her destiny was to create a stable domestic world. If you've got your North Node in the 4th house, I have this, the energy that you have to master is around creating a stable domestic world, creating a happy home life, having children, buying a house, whatever you think a home is for you. Doesn't necessarily have to be children. It could be like having a lot of cats and dogs. But she needed to create a safe, stable domestic sphere for herself. Now, that's really difficult when her partner, his public placement is there. So obviously being together is gonna turn her world upside down. Being with him exposed her private life. Like, there are pictures. Listen, Carolyn was a great girl. She had some bad habits, though. Go check that out. Like, there was pictures of her with white stuff in her nostrils. I remember seeing this when I was a child, looking at magazines, like just like pictures of her that was so, like, she's a beautiful woman. There was no bad picture of her, but really unflattering images of her coming out of her house, not wearing makeup, as gorgeous as she was. Like, she probably wasn't prepared to be photographed. That's another problem when someone's, you know, midheaven is on your IC. Like, it's not comfortable. She does have Jupiter here. Jupiter's retrograde, disappointing marriage, disappointing husband. That is in the same sign as the North Node. It is not, they are not in a conjunction, but they are together. When I see a North Node, and that is her midheaven ruler, by the way, Jupiter, because she has a Sag midheaven. Jupiter rules her midheaven. If she had lived, she probably would have run a home business or worked from home or had a home office. Maybe she already had that. I'm not sure. But yeah, she was meant to probably keep going with her career and probably have a family and run a business from home. Ideally, that's what didn't happen, but that's what should have happened had she lived. But yeah, North Node with Jupiter. Jupiter's the husband, getting married. You know, her Jupiter was in her 5th house, having children. So that's what she was meant for. But it's so uncomfortable being with him because she can't do that in peace. North Node in the 4th house is about finding peace and a safe, comfortable place, a pillow to rest your head. And that's really hard. That was really hard. That's one of the reasons why they were on, you know, their relationship was on the fritz, because it was just difficult for her. It was really difficult to handle the fame. Yeah. I will say his part of fortune there on her Jupiter, that's a nice little meetup. I mean, they're not personal placements, but there's abundance here. Obviously, when she got with him, she got a nicer, like, they moved to the meatpacking district in New York and they got a really nice flat. So, you know, his part of fortune is gonna, you know, make her home situation a little bit nicer in terms of, like, furniture, right? And, you know, a nice house, a nice apartment, and, you know, it's going to make the domestic sphere more glamorous, more comfortable, more abundant in that way. So that's good. But overall, this is a bit uncomfortable, I'll tell you. All right. Restricted social circles. John's Pisces descendant lies in a conjunction with Caroline's Saturn, Chiron, Ceres, and Juno. So being with her, this is where it's uncomfortable for him. Saturn is a restricted planet, right? And so if Saturn is sitting, in a Synastry chart, if Saturn is sitting on someone's descendant, it's going to restrict that 7th house. There's going to be less friends. Now, obviously, when someone gets married, they're not going to date as much. And John liked to date. John was a little, like, he is his father's son. And he dated a lot of girls. And they were like, go check that out. It's wild. Go check out the list. He had a type. He definitely had a type. Now, being with her is going to restrict those social circles. He's no longer going to be staying friends with the women that he used to date. He's going to, right? So this is going to be difficult for him, for someone that is a natural socialite who was born into basically American royalty. Being with her is going to be a struggle socially. That's how I'll put it. I think this is in her, it plays into her 2nd house, 1st house, 2nd house, because she's got her 2nd house cusp lying in Pisces. So I could argue that Chiron and that Saturn in her 2nd house is lessons around money, lessons around values. But also if I see her Saturn in the 1st house, that's like growing up quite young. She was mature quite young. Very, very often if you have Saturn in the 1st house, you are faced with a lot of adult responsibilities at a very young age, almost like a parentified child. But then as they get older, they learn to have more fun. And this girl knew how to have fun. I know she was an introvert and a private person, but she did like a party. But yeah, being with her was difficult because of this Saturn-Chiron conjunction. Not easy. Yeah. So let's move on from that. Also, by the way, this is not something that she meant to do. because Saturn is not a personal planet. It wasn't like she was telling him to remove people. It was just situational. I think when he got with her, he had to really make sure that she was safe. So if he has to make sure that she's safe, he's not going to be talking to a lot of people anymore, right? So it's more situational. It's not intentional. Chaos in the home office. So John's sixth house. Here we go. John's sixth house Aquarius moon. He's a moon in the sixth house as well. These two are very like professional people. If you've got your moon in the sixth house, there could be a bit of I mean, some of you don't like to be called workaholics, but you got to love what you do, right? They're very busy people. So he, like her, is a sixth house moon. He's in Aquarius. He's got it with Chiron. That's his wounded mother. That's Jackie, right? Chiron and the moon together is a wounded mother, an abused, wounded, humiliated mother. So that's there. I also think he has some kind of complex with women. I don't think he hated women, but I think that growing up with a very wounded mother made him a little bit of a mama's boy. And yeah, him and his mom, I don't want to say they had a strange relationship, but there was a lot of layers there. There's a lot of trauma bonding there. And that very much impacted his relationships with women. It's quite, I need to do some more research on his previous relationships because it's wild. But yeah, Moon and Chiron in the sixth house. I think he also had trouble with regulation, just on his own, by himself. His secretary, his private secretary, I think, wrote a book, and she did an interview. Go check out the interview. And she talked about how he would literally smoke weed every day to to settle down. It was like a glass of wine at the end of the day. Like, he had trouble with his emotional and energetic regulation, and I think he also got diagnosed with ADHD at a very early age. So Moon in Aquarius with Chiron in the sixth house is like a busy little bee who has a lot of trouble with anxiety and stress, and he probably leaned on drugs. This is a little bit of an addictive placement, even though the moon in the sixth house can be someone who's very efficient and, a bit of a workaholic. They can fall into addictions quite easily because if they're stressed, they need to cope. They're going to lean into vices, and he did that. So his moon in Chiron sits with her ascendant, her Mars, her Venus. Venus and the moon in the same sign is lovely. Like, that is one of the nicest placements. I know they're not in a tight conjunction here, but they are together. So if you have a moon and Venus together in a conjunction, it is an alignment of the heart and the soul. So Venus is your value system, attraction, your desires. That fits in well with his emotional needs. And they're both in a chaotic sign of Aquarius. So I think that they are very well matched here. Obviously, the Venus person is going to find the moon person's emotional nature attractive. I think the fact that he was just he was very spontaneous, and, very forward with his affections with her. I think she really enjoyed that. He probably took her by surprise a lot of the time. She's like, oh my God, he just got me flowers and flew me to Jamaica on the weekend. She really enjoyed that. I don't know if he did that. I'm just giving an example. She really enjoyed his chaos because she's a Venus and Aquarius. They enjoy the chaos. And also, it's very likely that they met at work, but they also did really well in the social circles that are associated with work. That's sixth house, because that his sixth house isn't a social sign. She fits very well into there. So it's nice and cooperative. However, Mars is here. Now, I talked about the Mars and Moon conjunction earlier when it was in Cancer. That was quite painful. She also brings chaos to his sixth house. She also brings a lot of anxiety to his sixth house. Her Mars and Venus are on her ascendant. So she's someone who... I would count the first house as a private house. She's someone who is no bullshit, get the work done, very direct. Even if she is a bit of an introvert, I think she was an introvert in terms of her work and her immediate dealings with people. She was very direct. That aggressive energy is playing out in his 6th house. So I wonder if she was a little bit disruptive and bossy if she came to visit him at work, or if they were at a work function. I'm wondering if she bossed him around a little bit, and that would have been uncomfortable. Because Mars is a masculine planet, Moon is a feminine planet. So in the context of his everyday work life, I reckon she could have been bossy, and it was a bit stressful for him and perpetuated his addictions. Not that I'm sure he didn't mean to, but I'm sure she didn't mean to do that. But Mars on the Chiron, I mean, it's not on it, but Mars and Chiron, his wound of pain. So you got to, like, it's again, a sword to the throat or a sword to the belly. Like, there's some heavy artillery here in a very delicate part of his chart. So being with her also disrupted his 6th house. I also feel like he's someone with a bit of a messy 6th house. It's in a messy sign. And she probably, told him potentially what to eat, what time to wake up. Like, it's just do this, do that. It's just a bit exhausting. So yeah, not an easy placement. Lilith is here. Lilith is the destructive feminine. So having these placements here brought that out in her. Yeah. As lovely as she is, I think she got away with a lot because she was beautiful. I feel like she's very charming, but I think she was a straight shooter, and she was blunt. I feel like she could be really blunt and dry with this placement. And she probably got away with it because she was so stunning. And deep inside, she's a very kind person. But when I see Lilith in a conjunction with a Venus, I'm like, you got that toxic love. You like that toxic love. Juno is also here with the moon, so he kind of embodies that husband marriage energy. Yeah. Exhausted at the party. So John's 5th house, leisure, pleasure, children. It's a leisure pleasure house. He has a Capricorn Jupiter here. I know it's in the 4th, but it plays into the 5th because that's where Capricorn lies. His Juno, Venus, Saturn, and Pallas Athena lie in a conjunction with Caroline's 12th house Capricorn sun. This is so painful. She's a 12th house sun. So she's a Capricorn sun with an Aquarius rising. So she, in a lot of ways, she's like a Pisces. This is someone that has a lot of secret behaviors. This is someone that, even though she was a professional, even though she was ambitious, she's someone that probably has a lot of vices, has a lot of secrets, is incredibly private and very sensitive. And, if you've got your sun or any planet really, like a personal planet in a water house, you can get polluted really quickly. And, he's got Saturn sitting there. And Saturn can bring a public recognition or acclaim, strains, difficulty, restrictions to her 12th house, which is painful, to her sun, her ego. Like, she probably didn't like the way she looked in some of the photographs that were printed of her. Like, being with him would have really taken a shot to her self-esteem. Not that he would have, I don't think he put her down. I don't think this is intentional, but looking at these placements, the situation that they're in is making her more self-conscious, right? 12th house suns, they have, a lot of secret behaviors they don't want the world to know about. Literally, the 12th house is the house of, like, secrets and secret enemies and, drugs and, like, delusions and illusions and fantasies and a lot of other beautiful things, but it is a difficult house. Her sun shining in this house makes her introverted, introverted with a lot of vices. And his Saturn, his Venus, his Jupiter is, like, shining a light on that. And a lot of her naughty behaviors and her potential addictions, alleged addictions, they came out in the press for the whole world to see. No one wants that. Yeah, not easy. Also, her sun is with his Juno and Jupiter, so she is the wife. And the Sun-Venus conjunction, obviously, attraction, right? Because the sun is self-expression, it's individualism. She embodies all the qualities he saw in a wife, in a lover, because of this Jupiter, Venus, and Juno conjunction. But Saturn makes marriage difficult. Saturn's close proximity to Venus, Jupiter, and Juno brings a lot of like heavy energy, heavy karma, and difficulty. So that all weighed on her as well. There's a lot of responsibility being his wife. I mean, she's got to follow in the footsteps of Jackie Kennedy Onassis. Like, what? What? That's a hard act to follow, you know? Especially for someone who's got some bad habits, you know? So he really like burdened her with Jackie, his mother's shadow. Like really burdened her. So unwanted attention. John's 4th house Sagittarius sun is in conjunction with Carolyn's midheaven. So again, we have a private house and a public house meeting up. His sun is on her midheaven. So if someone's placements in general, but a personal placement like the sun, which is visible, which is glowy, which is beautiful, sits on another person's midheaven, the midheaven person is going to get more acclaim. They're going to get more recognized through that association. She was famous by association. She wasn't famous because of anything. She wasn't famous because of her own virtues. You know, had she not met him, she would have continued on being a very successful Ralph Lauren executive and beyond. She would have been successful without him. But she got famous because of him. His sun is sitting on her midheaven, is drawing attention to her, right? And also, she's a Sag midheaven, so another person I want to compare her to, who also has an Aquarius rising, is Audrey Hepburn. Carolyn Bessette and Audrey Hepburn, they're not the same person. They're very different people, but they've got that similar kind of energy where they seem very cultured. That's what Aquarius Sagittarius energy is. Sagittarius is, you know, continental and it's foreign and I know she was American, but there was something otherworldly about her. Like she walked out the pages of a catalog or something. Like she looked like a supermodel. She looked sophisticated. She looked like she looked French, to be fair. Like there's something very like Parisian about her. As same thing with Audrey Hepburn. Both were slim. They knew how to wear Givenchy. Like it's that kind of energy. It's that cultured, beautiful, yet intelligent Sagittarius energy. And his sun sitting there is just drawing attention to that. So she had to dress well when she was with him. And also she has her Mercury in Sagittarius. So this is, I know it's in her 11th house, but she has like Sagittarius on 2 public house cusps. She has like her midheaven in Sag. She has her 11th house in Sag. 11th house is colleagues, networks, fame. She's got Mercury here. So if you've got Mercury in your 10th house or 11th house, that's someone who talks for a living, who probably has to be quite social for a living, not for funsies, but to like direct people, instruct people, to give information to people. And that speaks to her being in public relations. I think Sagittarius midheaven, Mercury in Sagittarius in the 11th house, that is very public relations, dealing with lots of people. As introverted as she was, her job was very extroverted. Yeah. So it's all quite interesting. It's just hard when it's forcing her, his placements, his sun, his IC, his private world is in that public space, because now she's not known for being Ralph Lauren's executive. She's known as being the Ralph Lauren executive that married an American prince. So I mean, this isn't too bad. This energy isn't too bad. But it also, she brings fame to his 4th house, like a lot of his bad behaviors and a lot of his, his domestic world also now has a microscope on it. So it's not that easy. I think she didn't deal with it as well as he did. I feel like this is not so bad for him, but it's still a little bit uncomfortable. Yeah. All right. Uncoordinated travel. So Guys, listen, they died in a plane crash. So what I'm looking at here is just, it's very apt. It's very interesting. It's a little bit upsetting and a little bit disturbing because it makes a lot of sense. Too much sense. John's third house, Scorpio, Mercury, and Neptune line a conjunction with Caroline's ninth house, Neptune. Neptune is one of the planets that represent death, or governs like the concept of death, right? So along with Pluto. So she has Neptune in the ninth house. Ninth house is travel. Actually, third house is short distance travel. Ninth house is long distance travel. And the planet, well, Neptune, their natal Neptunes, a planet of death, lie in houses of travel. How did they die? Flying over a sea or an ocean. And his Mercury's here. I talked earlier about how he had ADHD. That made sense with his moon Chiron conjunction in Aquarius, but it also makes sense for his Mercury-Neptune conjunction. The boy had trouble with the coordination. He was quite forgetful, and he still managed to get a pilot license. Like someone of his temperament probably should not have been flying planes. That's my I watched a whole documentary on it. I was like, what was he doing? But yeah, his Mercury and Neptune conjunction, while very intuitive, possibly psychic, he was someone who was very deeply in tuned with the public and humanitarian things and political things. It's a great placement for that. But flying a plane, like, the guy was a bit of a, he's a bit of a pothead. And just a few weeks before he and Carolyn died, he got into a plane accident and he was limping. Like, he got into an accident. I think he crashed a light plane and he injured himself. He was still recovering from it. And then just weeks later, he's flying a plane again, and then he flew in bad weather. He misjudged something and he crashed the plane into the water. Like, Mercury Neptune conjunction in the third house of travel, short distance travel, playing out in Caroline's ninth house of long distance travel. So it's so funny because I'm like, would flying a plane to an island, would that be considered long or short distance travel? It wasn't meant to be a long flight. Anyway, they have the planet of death in their travel houses. So there we go. That's not funny, but it is what it is. I think he got confused. And crashed the plane. It was night, it was bad weather, and he got confused. So this is not fun. Until death do they part. John's Virgo ascendant, North Node and Pluto conjunct Carolyn's 7th, 8th house, Virgo, Uranus and Pluto. Okay, can I make something clear? I mean, I've seen this a few times. Do not freak out. If you have this placement, I don't want you to be projecting your life onto John F. Kennedy's right now. But I've seen a North Node on the ascendant in a conjunction with a malefic. Sometimes people with this placement, not all the time, but sometimes they pass away by their own hand. Okay, I'll give you an example. James Dean. James Dean had North Node with Uranus in Aries on his ascendant. How did he die? A very sudden and violent death in a car crash because he was being reckless and selfish. Now, the North Node on the ascendant could indicate a selfish act or selfishness or main character energy, if we're going to take it to a better place. He's got that with Pluto, which is another death planet on his ascendant. He made a choice that killed him and his wife, right? And this is all playing out in Carolyn's 8th house, which is a death house as well. Pluto and Uranus are also here. I know it counts as her 7th, but because she's got Virgo on an 8th house cusp, it plays out in the 8th house. So this is a bit of a dark placement. His carelessness, his selfishness, and his uncoordination, whatever, his confusion led them to death. Okay? So yeah, if you have something like this in your chart, please don't freak out. There are also lots of people that have North Node with Pluto in the ascendant who actually end up being very successful, happy people. And some of them even lose a lot of weight. So I'm just putting it out there. Do not project onto that. Do not freak out at me, okay? Do not freak out at me. This is only applicable to these two people, this reading only. The revolving door of associations. John's 12th house, Leo, Uranus, conjunct Carolyn, 7th house, part of fortune. 12th house is secret enemies. 7th house is open enemies, and getting together revealed those people. I think that with this energy, her 7th house got massive. Like, she started knowing a lot more celebrities. She started knowing royals. She started, like, his Uranus in her 7th house just opened up a big wide world to her. But it also created resentment, anger. I wonder if there were a few potentially women or even friends in his circle that did not like her. It's a little bit chaotic. Her part of fortune was here. I feel like she was already kind of dabbling in the fame world before she became famous, but his Uranus here is just like blowing that up. And yeah, 12th house, his 12th house is secret enemies. So he's got a few placements where he had some enemies. I'm not connecting that to his death. I think that he passed away by his own. It was his fault because there were lots of things that happened that day that led to his death. I don't think it was set up. But yeah, it was just, I do think that he had quite a few enemies. I'm sure. I mean, he's a Kennedy. The Kennedys and the Bouviers, they got a lot of enemies. They got a lot of people that don't like them. Very strange family. But he brought all of that to her 7th house. So he just expanded that and made it more stressful for sure. Okay, so we're at the end. This is their Synastry chart as a whole. I'm just having a look to see if I've missed anything. I don't think I have. I think I've spoken about everything pretty much. Listen, there was a lot of love here, but had they lived, I don't think they would have lasted. Ideally, right, because he's a Virgo ascendant, sorry, he's a Virgo ascendant. He should have been with someone that had some placements in Pisces, like some gentle, like maybe he could have been with a Pisces Sun or a Pisces Venus. That would have been more pleasant, easier for him. It would have evened out his chart a little bit. She has her Saturn here. She got the planet heavy karma in his 7th house. It's a bit of a burden. Being with her was a burden for her too. Being together was a burden. There was real love, but sometimes love is not enough. Sometimes it's impractical and sometimes it can burden you. And she burdened him, right? She restricted him. It's not easy. Ideally, he should have been with someone who's had some more Pisces placements. And, she should have been with someone who had more Leo placements. Instead of this 12th house mess. So they weren't each other's, in terms of astrology and synastry, they weren't each other's ideal. They're not really a perfect match. However, there is still this, a Mars-Moon conjunction is a very strong sexual, emotional, spiritual connection, like sex. Moon and Mars together, a Moon and Mars conjunction is like sex meets spirituality. Like, both of them were like hooked on each other. They loved the way each other looked and felt. Like, they melted at each other's touch. It's that kind of energy. And obviously, having the Moon and Venus in a conjunction over here is really, really sweet. And, his Jupiter, Juno, and Venus, which are marriage and romantic placements, sit in the same sign as her sun. She embodied all the qualities that he wanted in a wife. So, while not each other's ideal, I do see a very strong connection between the both of them. But so uncomfortable. The public and private houses meeting up. Ugh. I do think they would have got divorced. I think they were on their way. They were going through therapy at the time that they died. And go check out that it got filmed. You don't have to watch it. Like, if you want to respect them, I did it. I watched it for research. There is footage of them fighting in Central Park, like fighting in New York, and like just shouting at each other. and her pushing him and him like shouting at her. Like, it's so dramatic. Like, this relationship was so much drama, so much love, but so much drama, you know. Ultimately, yeah, I think they would have broken up. Anyway, guys, that's all I have for you today. Thank you for staying with me. Oh, this is a 40-minute long video. Oh well, I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much. And if you would like a reading done, you can get an MP3, or you can DM me on Instagram and get a DM reading, or you can join my members. So thank you so much for your support, and I'll see you in the next video.